So Orexo is a Swedish pharmaceutical company focusing strongly on opioid use disorder, where we had a product in the US market for the last 11 years. Today we have a very strong cash flow and cash contribution from our US business, but the big focus in the company is building the next generation of products. And there we have a very exciting pipeline based on our proprietary drug technology called Amorphox. On the surface, you'd see that Orexo is exposed to the US market. More than 90% of our revenues comes from the US. But we have the advantage today that our product Zubsolv is fully produced and manufactured in the US with US sources of excipients and ingredients to the product. So we're not really exposed to the tariffs as it is right now. Then, of course, Orexo, like any other company today, is subject to global market volatility, exchange rate changes, and also looking ahead. If these tariffs is something that's going to be substantial and lasting, then of course our pipeline is more dependent on the global supply chain than our current product and income. So Zubsolv has, from a financial perspective, been very stable. We actually grew a little both in US dollars and Swedish kroner. Looking at just a single quarter is always difficult, both from a revenue and a volumetric perspective, because there are changes between payers. You get on formulary, that means you get reimbursement, or you get off formulary. We see a lot of changes in inventories in the supply chain. And normally Q1 is our weakest quarter, because this is the quarter where patients have to pay more of the prescription themselves. Other quarters they often get paid by the insurance companies, but it's always reset in the first quarter. We see policy changes. This year there was a policy change in Medicare, which is for the elderly people in the US, which changed some of the volume part. So financially, we're doing quite well. On a volumetric perspective, we lost a little, and the full market was down in the quarter also. So it's which we've seen in Q1 nearly every year. The market goes down and then it grows in Q2, Q3, Q4. And that happened this year also, with a little more impact on Orexo. But from a volume perspective, but a financial perspective, we actually grew a little. So in the quarter, we had I think our most valuable asset in our pipeline is a project we call OX640, which is based on epinephrine. Epinephrine is something you give when you have an anaphylactic shock. That means you're allergic, you get hazelnuts or others, a bee sting, and then you get you can say an anaphylactic shock. You start to vomit, or you swallow and have difficult breathing. And traditionally, we're given that with an injection called EpiPen. But what we've done is we made a nasal spray that you can then take it through the nose. It's also much more durable than the injectable solution. And here we had a second clinical trial in humans. We reported that early in the quarter. And that has really sparked interest from other companies to partner with us in the development. But also I think it's a good proof of the superiority of the technology. On top of that, we actually tested something completely different. We've tested it in a vaccine, not in humans, but in rats. But we actually saw that our powder formulation had the same immunologic effect on the rats as the original product. And the big advantage of our powder is that you can have that in room temperature, whereas the original powder or liquid that has been developed by a Swedish company, Abera, needs to be frozen down before it's delivered to the patients. So that will help Abera, I think, a lot in development, and show that the Amorphox, the span of applications from Amorphox to epinephrine to vaccines, and I think that's really a testimony of the advanced technology developed in Uppsala. Yeah, that has been an unfortunate string of bad news here the last couple of quarters. First starting mid last summer, where FDA decided not to approve the product and asked us for more data. But to generate that data, we need to get to manufacture new batches. And for that, we need a certain component to a nasal device, which our supplier, which is a global leader in nasal devices, have very unexpectedly had manufacturing issues. So they had basically a plastic mold that was out of specifications. And we got a new mold, it was also out of specification. And you say, how difficult can it be? But it's actually 100 of a millimeter. So it's very, very little, but it's still out of specifications. And that means that they need to redo the molding process and the manufacturing process. And that has delayed this. We were basically we never saw this as an issue, but it has been delayed from August last year. But right now it looks like we're going to get supply here in early July, which is basically taking that problem away. But it's nearly a year of delay based on a supplier. But now I think we're on track, and we believe that we can file the product again next summer. So we had a quarter with a strong operational cash flow. So our operating cash flow is actually 33 million, but then based on some financial changes and other changes, we ended up with a negative impact on our cash in the end. Had we not seen the Swedish krona strengthen so much to the dollar during the quarter, we would have had a positive cash flow for the quarter. So the reason we went from 123 last quarter to 119 was actually fully due to the strengthening of the Swedish krona to the dollar. So I think we're in a very stable position from a cash flow perspective. We have a positive EBITDA for the quarter. We expect to have that for the year also. So we continue to have a profitability on EBITDA level. We saw our sales compared to last year at the same quarter grew a little. We had stable cost position. So I think we're in a very stable and solid position from a cash perspective. Our biggest challenge is not financing. Our biggest challenge is we have to grow, and that's coming from the pipeline in particular and partnership in the pipeline. And I think that's where we are looking both for internally, but also I think as a shareholder, that's where you should be looking, is how can we grow through partnerships. I think a very important part in today's very volatile market, where kind of a tweet every day can change whether the market goes up and down, and there are different tariff discussions and others, is companies that have a solid financial ground, which Orexo does have. We have our US subsidiaries is doing good sales, increasing profitability, and that help us to finance our pipeline development. I think that's a good foundation to stand on as a shareholder, knowing, okay, this is a company who have a stable financing. It's not going to be a crisis situation near time. Then you have to look at the growth. And where I think the biggest growth driver for us, that is in partnerships, OX640. And do we get a partner? Is it a good partner that Orexo can sign? OX1 to 4. Do we actually start manufacturing and get these batches that we need to develop to have more data for the FDA to approve the product? Other partnership with the vaccine, for example, what's the next step in the Bera collaboration? Are there other vaccine companies coming in? And this, I hope and expect that we will see some news flow during the year, is in that partnership category, which is going to generate growth. At the same time, while we're keeping our Zubsolv business stable and a good cash generator for the company.